Live from Wrestling 911 Studio B in Burbank, California, I'm your host, the SnowMan, and who's the co-host?
The one, the only, the ever-popular Heineken-swilling Gargoyle.
Folks, we've got an interesting show today, and for Gargoyle's sake, we have covered all your WWE wrestlers, A, almost through Z. We have given reviews, rankings, and report cards here on our wrestling audio channel on youtube.com/911wrestling. But our memory stick, if you will, that was recording the show, ran out on Zack Ryder. So that's the only person we have left to talk about. So Gargoyle, do you think we should finish this whole review and report card thing up here today?
Whatever you want to do. You are the host with the most, and I'm the guest with the least. So I'm going to do whatever you want to do, big man.
We know that's not true, but let's go ahead and maybe you can give me your 2 cents on Zack Ryder, and then we can go over, we can recap, we can talk about a few other topics because we got plenty of time today.
Alrighty, Zack Ryder. I personally am not a big fan of Mr. Woo Woo and his little Zack Ryder YouTube show and all that, which I understand what he did to help get himself a push. Guy's got charisma, guy's got looks and some ability, but he's just one of those guys that I'm not a fan of for whatever reason. It's some people you just can't get behind the character, whatever, and for me, he's just one of them. I'm not a fan. That's all I can tell you.
I got to say the same thing. I saw him and Kurt Hawkins working together, and Trent Beretta was also part of the whole group. They kind of all worked together and trained together in, let's see, FCW wrestling. I didn't have a love for those guys, and I think there's just something. If you're a guy and you're a beer drinking, red blooded, football watching American male, the Zack Ryders of the world aren't extremely. You're not necessarily going to be into them. You know what I mean? They just don't have that something that just makes them cool for guys to watch. Do you agree with me on that?
Exactly. They're more your 21st, 22nd century, whatever century it is now. I'm feeling a little rough after celebrating from the Florida game last night, victory for the Gators, but they're more the smooth, metrosexual type guys, not your hardcore, physical, manly, Dick Murdoch, Dusty Rhodes type kind of guys, working class individuals, in my opinion. They're just too pretty.
I agree.
What I don't like about the WWE now is most of the wrestlers, with the exception of a few, they're too pretty.
I agree.
Look more like models, male divas, than wrestlers.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they may make a good toy and they may appeal to a 14-year-old kid because they want to be like that, but I think you'd probably rather watch John Riker. I'd probably watch John Zandig, CZW. I think I got the name right. Danzig, is that right? Danzig.
Yes, John Zandig.
Zandig.
I get into a little bit of bloody CZW too. I've got taste for all styles of wrestling, but the WWE it's not wrestling. I'm sorry. I don't care. It's a multi-billion-dollar corporation, make lots of money, and I'm sure there's 9 million people out there that would argue with me till they're blue in the face and want to pound me into a wet spot, but the WWE sucks. That's just the way it is.
So I did read something that I liked about Zack Ryder the other day, and one of the things that he did was what you talked about was that YouTube show that he puts on. Now, I don't know if that thing's still going on, but it was pretty popular there for a while.
Yeah, that's what helped get him a lot of the exposure and to the fans, the casual fans, I would say, and helped get his name up there a little bit with the WWE management or creative team,
right?
Which I believe, that's smart. The guy showed, okay, if they're not going to give me a push while I'm working, I'm going to do whatever I can and take advantage of technology and social media to help get myself over. And that's what he did in his little Zack Ryder, Long Island Ryder show or whatever, I don't even remember what it's called, was instrumental in him, getting more recognized, and essentially that helped get him that push that he's getting now. Yeah,
and that's kind of what he said, like, when he started off, and we got to give him credit for that, because you and I have more than done our fair share of YouTube shows and rose to some popularity with that sort of thing, but he basically said he got hired in the WWE, he was floundering barely even mid-card at best, hoping to get booked. And then, so he goes ahead and he started doing his YouTube show. And he said nobody in the WWE said he could do it, but then nobody said he couldn't do it either. So he figured it would either get him over or it would get him fired, but it had to be better than sitting there earning a couple $100s a week doing next to nothing. So it kind of got him over, and I give him credit for that.
Absolutely. That shows his drive and hunger for success and his love for the wrestling business, that he was willing to take that chance at possibly getting fired by doing this. Because like you said, no guts, no glory. You're not going to succeed if you don't take a chance or make the effort. And in this case, the effort of doing the YouTube and his use of social media helped him out immensely and put him up on that next plateau and got him out of the cellar of the bottom of the card, so to speak. So
right.
I definitely give Zack Ryder kudos for creativity, drive, and ambition to help get his career to where it is. But for me, he just doesn't do anything for me.
Do you remember him coming in as an Edge head, as essentially an Edge lookalike that was helping Edge out with Kurt Hawkins and Ryder?
Yes.
Yeah, that was one thing that he talked about as well, is that, he came in, and all he was known for is being a guy who looked like Edge, and he really said he wanted to, with his current gimmick, the Long Island gimmick that he has, the Jersey Shore looking gimmick, whatever you want to call it, he said he wanted to separate himself off from that. So he shaved, cut his hair short, got some blonde highlights, got some different gear, because he didn't want to live in Edge's shadow his whole life, which frankly, living in Edge's shadow as a wrestler isn't too bad a thing, but, he wanted to move in out of that. And I gotta say, it seems like he has some of those ideas where he's like, I want a different character, I want a different personality, I want to develop it. He reminds me of an indie guy, but before he makes it to national TV, frankly, and I think you and I will agree that these guys probably need 5-10 years of developing their skills and their gimmick overseas, throughout the U.S., in bingo halls, in Canada, and wherever it is. But he seems like, potentially, he might be a guy that 5-10 years from now, you and I really like. But right now, like you said, he's too much of a pretty boy for your average Joe American to really grab onto and say, this is a cool guy to watch.
Absolutely, and you're right. And that's the one thing that's lacking, and I think affects the quality of the WWE product, is as being how I'm, shall we say, older than most of the people that we might associate with. Back in the days of the territories, when you had the NWA and you had the WWE and the AWA and all that, guys could go around and travel and work different territories with different guys and different styles and get seasoned before they got called up, say, to the big show or, onto the main event that would be touring around the country for that particular promotion, where you could work with the top name guys. By the time they got there, they were ready.
Right.
Now you get these guys that come out of FCW or OVW or whatever the training school is, NXT, I don't know, I don't care. They put these guys in there and they let them wrestle for a little while, and then all of a sudden they put them on TV.
Right.
And they can't work, and it's just sad because it dilutes the quality of the product and just makes me hate the WWE more. I look and I've been to FCW a few times when I was down there visiting you, and I've seen Broadus Clay at FCW.
Yep.
Dude, it's terrible. Why is he on TV? They give him the warmed over Flash Funk / Godfather gimmick with the same two dancers they had, and all of a sudden he's a star. He can't wrestle. He's dangerous. Another one, Mason Ryan, Botchista, as I like to call him. Here's another guy, cookie cutter, steroid geek, muscle bound guy. Can't work, but yet he's on TV. And then you had guys until recently, like CM Punk, and I refuse to call him by the other name.
Brian Daniels. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, those guys who have 10 times, 1,000 times the ability, the charisma to put on good matches, and they're floundering trying to get a spot in the WWE, and you're putting these greeny, no-talent turbags and sticking them on national TV and paying them while these guys have been out busting their humps on the indie scene and in places like Ring of Honor and CZW and Japan and everywhere else. That's my biggest complaint about the WWE. It's not about wrestling. It's really all about the merchandise and that's marketing making their money. They don't make money off wrestling shows. They make all their money off the toys that they sell and the T-shirts and the replica belts and all that stuff. And I'm hoping when Vince McMahon steps down that Triple H, I see him starting to amass, shall we say, more of the indie level talents like, you know, the Bryan Danielsons, the CM Punks, the Claudio Castagnoli's, the Chris Heroes, the John Moxleys. I refuse to call them by them stupid WWE names that they always change them to. He's starting to amass more of those guys and trying to bring more actual wrestling talent into the show. And if it goes that direction, I think the WWE's popularity, at least for a wrestling purist fan such as myself, would make me more liable to want to watch it again as compared to now. Because, you know, I flip through it and usually it's fast forward, you know, with the DVR and fast forward. Nothing catches my eye. I'm gone. See it.
Yeah, no, I do the same thing and I fast forward through. And I think one thing I want to piggyback on what you're saying, then we'll end the show and we'll go on to some other topics with future shows. But the one thing that I really dislike about Florida Championship Wrestling developmental superstars, and particularly the homegrown guys that are coming out of, you know, college sports, is that when they graduate from FCW and they're promoted to the main roster and they're moved up, unless you get the unique indie guys like Colt Cabana or Low Key, the guys who trained at FCW, and they trained with Norman Smiley or Steve Kern or whoever, but they all have the same set of moves, same gimmick, same look, and even if they come in a little different, they just kind of get homogenized. They get made just about the same across the board, and it's not exciting if you see a guy do the same type of suplex off the top rope and the same, you know, the same fisherman suplex and the same lockup and the same this and that. For me, it's more exciting to see a Low Key who's going to do moves a little differently than the 20 guys we have on the roster that do things the exact same. It's like watching the same match over and over. And that's why, personally, you know, I like watching guys like The Big Show or Low Key or Colt Cabana, because they, and with Big Show I say that he has the potential to do different moves, but unfortunately lately he's just been doing the same thing over and over again. But guys who wrestle a little different because they have a little different background or a little different physique, it just gets a little boring seeing, you know, Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder and Trent Beretta and guys that just seem the same over and over again, where you could change their face and the match looks the exact same because there's no unique moves, there's nothing different about them.
I agree with you. It astounds me to this day how quality guys like Colt Cabana, Low Key, and I could go on and on and on and name 100 guys, get a shot at the WWE, and then they're released, you know, 3 months down the road, and they keep their little cookie cutter guys running through the show, and that's why it's so stale. You can't tell me that Low Key or Colt Cabana is not better than 90% of the guys on that roster. More entertaining, more athletic, or whatever. You know, it just astounds me. I'm speechless.
All right, folks, that marks the end of this episode. I'm going to see if I can get the Gargoyle to join us next week, and we can talk about MMA's mix with wrestling, particularly since Dave Bautista just fought his first MMA match. You in for that, Derek?
I'm always in for it.
All right, folks. I'm SnowMan Jones. You've got the Gargoyle here. We'll see you next week.